Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the IT Trainer. We're about to embark on episode 16 of our cloud class. This is a class I've been doing now for, about a month, and I'm going to continue doing this. It's a preparation class for not only the Cloud Plus CompTIA certification, but also just a general, what is a cloud? How do I use a cloud? Why do I want to use a cloud, etc. So it's really a two-pronged series of videos that I'm doing for you. Hey guys, you may notice right away that I do not place any advertisements on my channel. And the reason is I don't do this for money. I do this simply to allow this information to flow out to the masses. I am and have been an IT technical trainer since 1994. I've been doing this for an awful long time. I've taught thousands and thousands of students in the classroom, as well as using tools like Zoom, which obviously became very popular since the pandemic. I noticed over the years that training is obviously very expensive. And a lot of people just frankly can't afford the training. Most of my students can't afford the training. And luckily for them, their employers are paying for it. So I wanted to put these classes out on the internet so you could go ahead and take these classes for free. And that's what I'm doing. But here's the thing. I need your help. Absolutely can't do it without you guys. I need you to like and share the videos. Please leave a comment. I don't really understand the YouTube algorithm. I don't really want to understand it, but I do know that the more you guys get involved and comment and share and subscribe, the more people out there will end up seeing the video. And that's my goal, to spread this information to as many people out there as possible. And like I said, I can't do it without you. And I want to thank you for being a part of this. So this is episode 16. And I believe it was episode 10 or episode 11 is where I built a virtual machine, a virtual server, a Windows server. And I used the GUI inside of the Microsoft Azure product to do that. The GUI that you're seeing right there, called the Azure Portal, portal.azure.com. And now I'm going to take that same kind of a process, but we're going to do it with the Azure Cloud Shell. GUIs are great, but the problem with the GUI is you don't automate with a GUI. If I want to build a virtual machine and I use the GUI, that's great. I've got to manually go through the process, run through the wizard, make sure I fill everything out correctly, make sure I spell everything correctly, make sure I get the usernames and passwords formatted correctly. And as I always joke with my students out there, when God handed out typing skills, he certainly didn't give them to me. So I'm constantly making mistakes typing. So, and that's something you have to understand about a GUI. A GUI is only good as the information you put in. If you misspell something or do something incorrectly, the end result is you may have a resource that is misspelled or configured incorrectly. So they're great for doing something in a graphical setting. They're not great for doing things that you're going to routinely do over and over and over again. We always say that about command lines and scripts. As long as I can author my script or my command line correctly, then I can run that as many times as I like, and the end result nicely will always be the same. So we're going to use the Azure Cloud Shell, and we're going to use ultimately PowerShell, and I'm going to build a quick little Linux VM. And if you do yourself a favor, go back and watch episode, maybe it's 10 and 11, and you'll see me go through the build of the VM and the GUI. And then I want you guys to compare the two. Leave me a comment on either one of these videos and compare building the virtual machine via the GUI and building the virtual machine via the command line that I'm going to do. Okay, really important. The command line, the nice thing about it is, again, as long as you author your script correctly, I run that script as many times as I like. The end result is always going to be the same, period. Now, there could be a technical glitch inside of the Azure process, inside of the orchestration processes. I'm not saying it's 100% guarantee, but I can tell you this, if I had to personally type things over and over and over again, man, I'm going to make mistakes, period, because I don't type well. I mean, that's just it. My fingers don't move right. They never did. So that is an advantage. Routine, mundane, repetitive tasks, man, you cannot beat using the command line or writing a script. That's what we're going to do. Okay, so as you see here, we're in the Azure portal right now. I'm going to go all the way up top of the Azure portal. You'll see you've got a search box, search resources, services, and docs. I could simply type in here Cloud Shell if that's what I wanted to do. Sorry guys, I'm typing around this big Rode microphone, but I could type Cloud Shell and get to the Cloud Shell. I could also go up to the ellipses up here and choose more portal tools, and I can hit Cloud Shell. Now normally, if you have your resolution set, the portal would open up fully and you would see all of these already open up there as links on the bar up top, the title bar, the search bar. But because I have the resolution set a specific way so that I can record and you can actually see what I'm doing, it hides all of these shells in this menu. So however you want to do it, you can go ahead and do it that way. But I'm going to choose Cloud Shell from here, and now it's going to open up down below the Cloud Shell. Now, a couple things about the Cloud Shell. In order to use it, you need to have storage. Why? Because you're writing what? I'm writing maybe a script, or I'm authoring command lines. In essence, I'm creating documents. I'm creating a PowerShell document. Well, where's that PowerShell document going to be? Where's it going to be stored? Is it going to be, ones and O's floating in the ether out there? No, it's going to be stored like any other document would be stored on like a file server somewhere. Well, I don't have a file server. So in essence, what I'm doing is I'm creating a storage location inside of the Azure cloud. That's what I'm doing. I'm creating a storage location. As it says right there, Azure Cloud Shell requires an Azure storage share to persist files. Now, what does persist files mean? Persist means to store in this case. So Azure Cloud Shell requires an Azure file share to store your files that you're building with the shell. And when I go through this process, what's going to happen? This will create a new storage account for you, and this will incur a small monthly cost. So guys, you're going to pay for this. You're not paying 10s, 20s, 30s. You're paying a couple bucks here and there per month. Not here and there, a couple bucks per month. This is a repository for whatever you create or build or author in the Cloud Shell. It's that simple. And notice it says Azure Cloud Shell will register your subscription. My subscription is a pay-as-you-go subscription with Microsoft Cloud Shell Resource Provider. Now, what does that all mean? Well, when I write my scripts, they're going to be stored in a file share that we're going to build. We're going to go to advanced settings here in a little bit. We're going to build it. We're going to build a file share that's in a storage location that is linked to my subscription so I can pay for it monthly. And the other thing it does, the other half of this is that file share that I'm going to create is linked, as it says, to Microsoft Cloud Shell Resource Provider. That means when I'm building something or managing something in the cloud and I call on one of my scripts, the background automation process, the cloud controllers know where to go get my script. My script lives in a file share that I've named, and it is linked there. It's registered there. So the automated processes look at it and they go, okay, we have a file share link with a pay-as-you-go subscription. Let's go out there and grab this script that this particular user is calling for. So in essence, it creates a link between your storage and your management infrastructure for your cloud. Now, how do I start this off? Well, notice subscription. This is my subscription. I explained this in previous episodes, and again, guys, I'll say it again, go subscribe and check out all these previous demos and videos I did. It'll really lend a lot of other information to this, which I can't dive into in that depth in a 20-minute video. But my subscription, I liken it to when you call the electric company or the water company and you want to set up service. So you give them your name, your address, and so forth, and that links you and your credit card to the amount of electricity you're going to use or the amount of water you're going to use, right? Well, that's what this is. I have a pay-as-you-go subscription, which basically means whatever I build, I pay for it at that time. That's just the way I do this for these demos. I could use and I have normal Azure accounts. Normal's not the right word, but I have other Azure accounts that I'll pay monthly for, but I just link this, and whatever I build, I end up paying for if I don't delete it within 24 hours. So that's my subscription. Now I'm going to go to Show Advanced Settings, and this is where we build the storage. Okay, notice subscription, pay as you go, that's me, and then we have to put it in a region. I believe in episode 9 or episode 10, I went over regions, I went over zones. I encourage you to go look at that. I explain it in detail, but the region is basically the geographical location where this storage is actually going to live within the Azure cloud. And again, go back and watch those episodes. I talked to you about one very important tenet or unwritten rule, if you will, of networking. You want to bring the resources as close to the users as possible. Well, I'm in Florida. I don't want to write scripts and have those scripts be stored in Germany or France or Canada. No, I want them stored somewhere close to me because I'm going to be manipulating them. Okay, I'm going to be manipulating them. Let me go ahead and give myself some more time here. I'm going to put these scripts in the Eastern U.S. That's where I want it, East U.S. Why? Because that's the East Coast of the United States. I'm in Florida. I'm on the East Coast of the United States. Now, there's also East U.S. number 2. That is just a second region within the East U.S. It splits it really from north to south. I'm just choosing East U.S. You would choose the one that's appropriate to you. I'll give you an example. If I have a bunch of virtual machines that are being used by employees of the business in Tokyo, Japan, well, I'm going to make sure that I choose the appropriate region as close to Tokyo, Japan as I can get, Japan East. I believe Tokyo is up on the east side of Japan, so we would choose that. Why? Because my virtual machines are there. I don't want to copy a bunch of scripts here from the U.S. out over WAN connections, over the cloud, into Europe, and then through Asia into under the water over to Japan. I don't want to do that. I'm going to put them in Japan to begin with. So bring the scripts as close to the resources as you're going to manage. Let me say, I don't think I said that right. Bring the scripts as close as you can get to the resources that you're going to manage. All right. Now, like anything in the cloud, again, explained in previous episodes, we have to affiliate the resource we're building with a resource group. I already have a resource group here that we're going to use, UC_AZ_00030 group. That's just a resource group that I have created in here. A resource group is nothing more than a container that contains resources, and I can manage all of those resources in the container. It's kind of just like a group that you may have seen or may know of in Active Directory or in Microsoft network operating systems. We add a bunch of users to a group. Now, the only difference is here, we're not configuring the group as a whole. We're configuring things in the group. So it really is more of a logical container object for your resources. Next, it says create a storage account or use an existing storage account. I'm just going to call this, actually, I'm going to use lowercase YouTube storage. Okay, YouTube storage. That's what I'm going to call the storage account. Now, what is a storage account? It's like any other account, like a user account, Joe Smith, Frank Smith, right? That's all it is. It's the account that's going to be assigned the permissions to gain access to the file share, which I'm going to create next. YouTube file share. Let's see if that one works. And that's what we're going to do. So now I have a file share called YouTube file share, a storage account called YouTube storage. Okay, the storage account is just like a person's account. Have you guys ever logged on to a computer? Are you in a business where you log on every day? Well, you log on with, Sally Smith. That's your user account. Same thing, except this user account is used to access the storage. Now let's see what happens. I'm going to choose create storage. And we'll give it a few seconds and we'll see what happens. You've got to formulate these storage account names and file share names correctly, meaning if I use capitals, if I use certain characters that aren't supported, this could be, this would be a problem, because you're going to get an error that's going to say, hey, you can't use those, you can't use those characters in your storage account names and in your file share names. Let me kind of move this up a little bit so I have a little bit more room. So all I've done so far is I created an area of storage, and that storage itself, just picture this. Picture a disk, a hard drive that I just created, right? Picture a hard drive that I just created somewhere in the eastern United States, and I created a user account for me to access that hard drive, and I created a folder on that hard drive that is shared. And I can store my script that I'm about to build, which is going to create a Linux virtual machine, an Ubuntu Linux virtual machine. Okay, that's what I'm doing. That's all I've done. And the cool thing is, once I build this, I could go back. Sorry, I hit my mic. I could go back and do this again and again and again. Now, I told you how horrible I type, guys. So what I did before I started this video here is I wrote my script as a text file. And I'm going to go ahead and just import it into this virtual machine by obviously pasting it, so that I don't have to type it all and mess it up and so forth. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go over what I'm going to inject here. I just sent in, I wish I could type that fast, I just sent in to the virtual machine a command string. Now let's take a look at this command string. Okay, and by the way, I encourage you to learn how to use PowerShell and so forth, because PowerShell is one of the primary, at least in the Microsoft world, PowerShell is one of the primary cloud shell providers that we're going to use. All right, so let's take a look at it. Azure, VM, virtual machine, create. How simple is that? In Azure, I'm creating a virtual machine. -N, named. What am I naming it? Marketing-VM -EUS, Eastern US -01. That's the virtual machine name. Now, let me say something. That is not the computer name. That's the virtual machine name. Okay, what does that mean? When I'm done and I go back into Azure and I see a name of all my VMs, that's what I'm going to see. That's not the computer name of the VM. That's just the metadata name, so I know, oh, that's that machine. That's the one I want to start. Okay, notice we're going to put it in a G. What do you think G means? Group. In essence, what group are we talking about? A resource group. And there it is, UC_AZ_0030 group. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. The first part of this, I'm creating a virtual machine named Marketing VM Eastern US 01. I'm putting it in a resource group, UCAZ0030 group. That's what I'm doing. But wait a minute. A virtual machine needs to have an image associated with the virtual machine, right? And the image associated with the virtual machine is this one. I'm assigning the Ubuntu Linux virtual machine, or not virtual machine, but operating system to it, right? And that's what we're saying here. Image, Ubuntu 2204. That's the build of the Linux virtual machine, or the Linux OS that I'm going to be adding to it. And then it says I'm assigning an administrative username of Azure user, and it's going to be generating the SSH keys automatically so I can connect to it using, like a VPN connection over the internet. That's what we're doing. And I just went ahead and hit enter, and now the whole script itself is running. So we're going to go ahead and give that a few seconds to run, and when it's done, we in essence will have a virtual machine. Now, we won't be able to connect to the virtual machine because I'm going to have to open up ports and protocols for it. That's going to come next in this process. We're going to open up port 80 for web traffic, and we're going to do a couple other things. So we'll go ahead and we'll let that run for a little bit, and well, there we go. It just finished. We're now up and running. And by the way, I've been timing that here on my computer, and that took about 22 seconds, 24 seconds or something to run that. As you can see, it says location. What does that mean? That's where the virtual machine actually is. It's in the eastern US. Here's the MAC address associated with that machine that I just built, 000D3A9D8942. Here's the power state. Notice what it says. Pretty cool. VM running. There's the IP address associated with it, 10004. Here's the public IP address associated with it, 1390.231.114. Notice the resource group that we put it in, UCAZ0030 group. And the zones, whatever zone it's going to be in the eastern U.S. region. And zones, there's no designation, which means it's just going to be designated as being a single zone resource somewhere in the region known as Eastern U.S. I could have put it in Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. Go back and watch previous episodes for that. I explain zones and how that works, and you can, watch that. But there you go. As of right now, we have a virtual machine up and running. So in the next section, when I come back, we're going to go ahead and do a few more things to this virtual machine, and we'll go from there. Okay, so now that we have this virtual machine created, I'm going to enter another command. So what we need to do next, guys, is, and I'll go over the command with you, we need to set this virtual machine up so that it can accept outside connections or external connections, right? Because this virtual machine is in the cloud. Well, if it's in the cloud, people connect to it over the web. So what I have to do is I have to enable ports for this system so that we can connect to it over the web. That's what I'm going to be doing next, and I'm going to go ahead and send this command into the console, and we'll go ahead and go over this. Give me a second to move this, move this laptop out of the way here. So as you can see, what we have there, again, Azure, AZ, VM, virtual machine. What are we doing? We're opening a port. Okay, that's what we're doing here. We're opening a very simple port for this to use. Now give me just a second here, because what happened here? Bear with me just a second, guys. Bum, bum, bum. Bear with me, I'm having a little glitch inside of Azure. There we go. Okay. Hold on one second here. Let me hit enter. This is gonna fail. Okay, of course it's gonna fail. So give me just a second. Let's go ahead and enter that one more time. Little glitchy sometime. There we go, that worked. So what we're doing here is Azure VM, I'm opening a port. What port? I'm opening up port 80. Port 80 on what? Port 80 on a virtual machine named Marketing VM US 01 in the UC underscore AZ 00030 group, right? See that? When I copied that into the console up over the internet, it didn't take the whole command, so I entered it again. And it doubled up on the command, so I just entered it, let it run and fail, and I went ahead and just entered it the final time so you can see. It's a little bit glitchy sometimes when you're doing this up over the internet. And again, we're good to go. Notice what it did. And at the end, you'll know everything that it did and whether it was successful. It's real good about that. So it says name, open port 80. Okay, with a priority of 900, meaning, hey, open it up no matter what. Is there something that is dictating that this port should remain closed? Override that. Open it up. It's like forcing it to open. Protocol. Well, what protocol? Whatever protocol is used on port 80, which you guys probably know or should know, it is HTTP. Okay, so port 80. Provisioning state succeeded. What does that mean? The port is now open on this virtual machine that I built previously. It says the resource group where this rule is, because that's what I did, guys. I'm basically creating a firewall rule. That's all I'm doing here. And then it says, now look on the bottom, interesting, it says Microsoft.network/network security groups/security rules. It's telling you what you just created, the type of what you just created. And what I just created is known as a security rule. And the security rule is associated with a network security group. Now, what's a network security group? It's a group of rules that I'm assigning to the virtual machine. In essence, they're firewall rules. So we just enabled a network security group, which is a group of firewall rules. Now, I only have one firewall rule that I created, open port 80, right? So now, once this is done, I'm able to connect to this virtual machine over the internet. Okay, I'm able to connect over the internet. So in the next episode, we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and connect to the virtual machine. We'll talk a little bit more about it. We'll go look at all the metadata associated with the virtual machine and so forth. And you'll see the functioning virtual machine. This time, I built it with just some simple commands. Even with the one glitch I had, copying my text file into the portal here over the internet, even with that glitch, it took a few seconds to build the virtual machine, and it would have taken a few other seconds, especially if you can type, unlike me. You could have built this whole thing and had it up and running in really less than a minute to a minute and a half, and it would have been done. Whereby, if you would have worked through the entire wizard, as we did the first time, that could easily take you 20 minutes or more to do this. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got a lot out of it. Again, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. You're going to see all these videos that I'm doing. I'm trying to do on average of 1 to 2 videos a week, sometimes even more if I can swing it. I am teaching a full-time night class now, a Security Plus class at night. Online using Zoom, but I'm going to try to do as many of these videos as I can in the morning. So please do me a favor, like and subscribe. Remember what I said, there's no ads. You didn't see any advertisements on this. I'm not doing this for money. I'm doing it to spread the knowledge to as many people as I can. And I really want to thank you for joining with me in that endeavor. We'll see you for the next episode.